Hello, this is Russ from Requiem Custom Rods. I wanted to give you a quick rundown of my new drying motor system. So, here we have the system. You have a 3-position switch. When it's centered, the motors will be turned off. It's indicated on the LED. Up will give you reverse, down will give you forward. When it's in reverse or forward, if the speed is dialed all the way down, the motor is in hold. It will hold the position it's in. If you put it in off, the motor can spin freely. You have a reset switch. The reset switch actually resets the firmware. So when the timer is running, I'll show this to you. Got the timer, and if you hit the reset switch, it will completely reset the firmware, and that'll drop your time back to 0. That way, if anything goes wrong with the firmware, you can manually reset it. Okay, so if you have the default model, your variable speed goes from 0 to 100 RPM. There's no minimum, so when you get down around 1 or 2 RPM, it may start appearing a little bit jerky. That's just the steps of the motor. That is fine. And again, when you get all the way down to 0, it will be in hold. So a couple of things to note. The motor plugs in right back here. If that motor comes unplugged while it's operating, it will blow up the controller. It's not a real big deal because on your board, the motor controller is removable. So you can pop in a new motor controller. However, the current will have to be adjusted on the new motor controller if you source them yourself. So you can send it back to me and I can replace your motor controller. They cost about $7 or $8. This also has a modular control circuit. So that is the microcontrol board, and that can also be replaced, or if you need new firmware, you can shoot that to me and I can just upload new firmware to your controller or swap yours out. They're also relatively inexpensive. So you'll note you have 2 power inputs. Right now I have 2 9-volt batteries hooked up to this unit, and there is one test you should do pretty frequently, and that's with the motors running, and normally you'd be operating this with 1 power input from the wall and 1 power input from a battery as a battery backup, but unplug one of the power sources and make sure it continues to run. Plug that one back in, unplug the other power source, make sure that continues to run. And then make sure your diodes are in good shape and that you do have battery backup. Now with battery backup, the wall power supply I have provided is a 15-volt power supply. You can use a 9-volt battery backup like these or a 12-volt lead acid battery backup. I've installed clips on the end of the pigtail that came with your motor. That's so you can choose whatever battery you want to use. Your battery does need to be about 2 volts less than your wall power supply. That will ensure that it never draws on the battery while it's plugged into the wall unless you have a power outage. I want to show you these chucks. So this is my scroll chuck design. I'm going to include some pictures at the end of the videos, but if you loosen the scroll chuck all the way, the jaws will fall out. Now these jaws are all individual to which slot they go in. So these are the older cast, and it's got a couple of dots messed up, but you can see right there on the jaw, there's 2 dots. And there's the 3-dot jaw and the 4-dot jaw. Those correlate to a dot on the faceplate. So when you want to load these, you want to take your faceplate and you're looking at the number 1 slot right here. So you want to rotate the number 1 slot until the scroll just comes free. You can see that there, and again, I'll include pictures of how to do this. Now you take the 1 dot jaw and you turn it a quarter of a turn. Now I went a little bit too far, so the 2 dot's not going to fit in. So I have to back it back up a little bit until that outer scroll clears. Now I take the 2 dot jaw, drop it in, turn a quarter of a turn. Take the 3 dot jaw, drop it in, make sure it dropped in all the way, turn a quarter of a turn. Take the 4 dot jaw, drop it in, turn a quarter of a turn. And now your jaws are back in order. Okay, I'm going to include a couple of pictures at the end of this video, and good luck. I hope you enjoy.